Hey bass players, Tatiana is here, welcome back to my channel. Today we are diving into the world of jazz improvisation on the bass. I will show you how to use pentatonic scales and jazz scales and arpeggios and just musical gestures to create compelling bass solos. Let's start. Let's start with the pentatonic scale, a great tool for jazz improvisations because the pentatonic scale is simple and versatile. I've made a separate video about pentatonics and you can check it out if you want. For example, over the chord D minor or D minor 7, we can use the D minor pentatonic. This is the D minor pentatonic scale with the notes D, F, G, A, C and D. If I wanted to play E minor pentatonic scale, I would keep the fingering and play it like this, or I can take it from any note I want, for example from G minor pentatonic scale. Looks like this. We can create strong phrases using rhythmic variations and slides and maybe ghost notes, something like this. When I know that the chord is going to stay for a little while, for example, I have a D minor chord for a couple of bars, I can just put my hand in this position and take any note from the pentatonic scale and play any notes at all, and I can even stick up to one note and play some rhythmic phrases on it. A pentatonic scale also works for major chords, and you use the same fingering, but you play it as a relative minor, so you will have the tonic or the number one note under your pinky. If I have F major chord, I can still play the good old D minor pentatonic scale, because F is under my pinky, and I will use the same fingering for the D minor pentatonic scale. Now let's expand with scales. You can use both of them, major and minor. Just don't forget to make up phrases out of them. You can check out my video about jazz phrasing if you want. This is the D minor scale. And you can use the notes out of it one by one, up or down, or you can mix up their order. Or F major scale will go for F major chord. Arpeggios are essential for jazz because they outline the harmony. Let's start with the D minor 7th arpeggio. For this chord we have D for 1, F for 3, A for 5 and C for 7. It's actually a reduced version of a pentatonic, just without the note G. However, if you get familiar with playing an arpeggio for 2 octaves on the bass, you can easily shift your positions on the fretboard, and it's kind of useful. So for the D minor 7th arpeggio for 2 octaves, it will look like this. D, F, A, C, D, F, A, C, and if you want, you can take one more D here, and even one more F if you have 22 frets. If you want to add even more color, you can try to add the note number 9 into your arpeggio mix. For the D minor chord, it will look like 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, which is going to be the note E. The notes 7 and 9 in a chord are very jazzy and cool indeed, and you can consider them as a normal part of a chord, so you don't have to resolve them to the other notes. Like E, for example, can be resolved to D or F, which are very classical chord notes for D minor, but you don't have to do it in jazz. Now let's spice the things up with chromaticism, notes outside the scales, which create additional tension. One of the ways is approach notes. They are leading into the chord notes by half of the steps. For example, this is my note D, and I can play the approach note from down up or from up to down, or the same. This is the note A, which belongs to the chord D minor. I can come to it from the half of the step. The chromatic passing notes can be easily played in pentatonics, for example, filling the gaps between the notes of the pentatonic scale. But the same can be used in arpeggio, because arpeggio is very close to the pentatonic, as you realized already probably. So this is my D for 1 and F for 3, and between them I can fill it up with chromatic notes. As decorations, chromatic notes can be taken just to round the note from the chord. For example, this is my A, and I can play. People also call these things enclosures. Also, you can take a chromatic note by pulling the string on a chord note and back. You can also include some dramatic musical gestures into your improvisation, and when you do this, you don't have to care about the scales and chord notes at all. These gestures are often chromatic, going up or down like this. They don't have to be chromatic, but they often have a repetitive sequential pattern. The main struggle in jazz improvisation is the fact that chords change, sometimes very fast and sometimes out of any classical rules of changing chords. It can be really tricky. Often, when you have an understanding of what and how you can develop the improvisation for one chord, you can connect it with another chord and go on and on. However, each case shall be taken individually. Sometimes you can just take a good rest and make it a lovely part of your improvisation. Sometimes you just play arpeggio notes or chromatic lines. The thing that saves any improvisation is a good rhythm. Often, even a raw note can sound good if the rhythm is precise and the phrase is effective. Victor Wooten had a fantastic workshop about it, and I think you can find it online. And he often says, you don't dance to a pitch, you dance to a groove. That's 100% right, and all the notes are correct in the right context, and at the end of the day, pitch is not everything. Alright, now you have pentatonics, scales, arpeggios and chromatic notes, and even a little bit of musical gestures to incorporate into your jazz bass solos. Try mixing these ideas into your playing. Let me know in the comments what technique do you use the most for your jazz improvisations. And if you want to learn a little bit more bass tips across genres, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And you can tell your best friends about this channel as well. See you next time, keep grooving!